Hi, my name is Carmen, and I am an early childhood special education teacher, a life and ADHD coach, and I'm the host of this podcast, Authentically ADHD. I created this podcast to help anyone wondering if they have ADHD, people who have been diagnosed for a while and want some more support and community. I'm here to bring you the latest research on ADHD and neurodiversities while we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of ADHD. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, my friend, and welcome back to today's podcast. I'm so glad you pressed play today because setting and achieving goals with ADHD is super difficult, and achieving goals with ADHD is difficult in itself. And since we are heading into fall, I thought this topic would, kind of fit nicely as we set goals for our businesses, ourselves. For me personally, it will be for my teaching and for my students. And, whatever goal you may be trying to reach or set. See, as ADHDers, we have a really hard time with the whole process of setting and achieving goals. And this is because of our deficient executive functions. It takes planning, organization, prioritization, time management, and all of the other things, including emotional regulation, just to set the goal and break it into steps and plan it out and then actually execute the plan. And those are all executive functions we have a hard time using. And then if there are any extra problems, we need to use our emotional regulation skills. Sometimes we have to control our impulsivity, another deficient executive function. Goals are so hard to set and follow through on. So we get frustrated, give up, or just trash the goals altogether. But goals are really important for people with ADHD. I learned this the hard way, you guys. We actually need something to work towards to keep us interested in the thing. I used to hate goal setting, but now I use a process I made up by mixing two different strategies together to fit my goal setting needs. One of them, I don't know really where I got the idea. I don't know if I made up the focus plan idea or if I got it somewhere else. I have no idea. But the other method is a flower process that I learned from Paula Engebretsen's podcast. And I will credit the person who came up with this flower process. The only reason it's named that is because I think the person's name was Flower, now that I'm remembering that episode. I have melded these two strategies together to fit my goal-setting needs because, see, here's the thing. Our brains cannot just, look at a goal or a long-term task, for example, create course or plan fall or clean garage. These types of goals confuse our brain. Our brain looks at that and is like, what do you mean? I don't understand. Where do I start? There's too much to do. It causes overwhelm very quickly. Ask me how I know. This is usually when we get stuck in task paralysis. I found myself doing this when getting ready to come back to work. There is so much involved in that one goal that my brain didn't know where to start. So I use a mix of the focus plan and the flower method process when I'm setting goals like this that have a lot of steps to them, or creative processes such as writing my podcast. It really helps with the visualization of the end goal, which is visual working memory, another executive function that is deficient. And if it sounds like I'm giggling every time I say that, I am, because that's why the whole thing is hard, is because if you've been listening, I've just named 7 executive functions that are involved with setting and achieving goals. I wonder why it's hard for us people with ADHD. So anyways, these two strategies that I've melded together, they help with the visualization and with breaking down the steps to the bigger goal. So say I have a goal that is bigger, like get ready to go back to work or write my podcast. What I do first is use the first step in the flowers process, which is the idea machine. There are no bad ideas in this first stage. It's just a writing process. You just write out all of the ideas. This flowers process helps me to stay on track, and it keeps perfectionism at a lower rate for me and helps me visualize the final product or task. So I was trying to figure out the best way to kind of explain this. So I'm going to explain what the flower process is and what a focus plan is and like kind of how I use them. So the flower method is a method created to help us keep perfectionism out of the process of meeting goals, basically to keep it at the end where it belongs. There are 4 steps, each designed to help you work through any process. I mean, it really works best with creative processes or longer, bigger projects and things like that, but you can use it with pretty much anything. I think it was made for creative work, but you can manipulate it and adjust it to work for you. So the first stage is the idea machine. This is where I just write down all of the ideas. There's no editing in any of the stages until the final stage. So after you have gotten all of that brain dump done, the second stage is the architect. This is where you take the ideas that you want and kind of trash the ones that you don't, and then you create a structure around the task, the outline, if you will. Now, in phase 2 is where I use a focus plan. It's where I decide what I want to do and where I break down the steps to do it. I have it linked in the show notes if you would like to use it. A focus plan helps us to visualize the end result and break down the steps to get there. So I would paint done, meaning I would write exactly what I want my outcome to be, descriptively, and I make sure that it's measurable. And then I break it down. So after that, you're going to need to estimate how much time is needed for each step. If you've never done the big project before or the tasks like that you need to do to get the big project done, never done them before, haven't done them in a while, I would say double or triple your estimations. I always at least double my estimated times because seriously, my brain has such a deficit in that skill of estimating time. It's part of that time management and organization piece. If you're better at that, I'm so happy for you. But I can't do it that way, so I just double the times. Okay, so now that, and don't worry, after I kind of explain what these things are, I'm going to put it into an example. So now that you've come up with all of your ideas, you structured the ones that you want and you organized them into a focus plan and an outline and whatever, the next part is the carpenter. This is the third stage, and this stage takes a bit longer because this is where you are building the vision or end result or painting done. I mean, you're turning the steps and or actions in the outline basically into sentences, or like literally this is where you're building the idea, goal, task, or project or whatever. I use my steps that I wrote down to break down my task to start. Sometimes that's literally the hardest part. Remember, we're still in phase 3, so there's still no editing. We're not being perfect about it. We can leave typos alone. That can be done in stage 4. There is time for it. Tell your brain there's time for it. If you think of something, I mean, I love to keep a notepad to the side or a notes app or something just to jot down if I get a quick idea I don't want to forget. But I try not to spend too much time in that notebook or on that notepad, okay? So in phase 3, you're roughly building up to the final product. Okay, then when that's all done, then the final phase can start. This is called the judge. That's number 4. This is where you can go back, add nuance, fix up the kinks, edit the podcast, touch up the slides, change up the colors, and complete the project. Meaning, put it out into the world or download it as ready to go. So if I were to give an example, let's say writing a podcast. First, I pour out all my ideas, my thoughts, etc. on paper. I get them all out. Then I start to kind of sort through them and choose my topic and train of thought. And then I paint done. I'm not going to lie right now. I do use ChatGPT to help me with idea generation, with outlining and things like that. It does not write my episodes or anything, but I do use it to support the podcast. It's a very useful tool. I suggest that you check it out. So when I paint done for a podcast episode, it looks like done is a podcast written, recorded, and published or scheduled. Like done. That task is too big for our ADHD brains to just do. We would need to break it down. So my steps include researching the topic, creating an outline, writing out my script, recording the episode, editing the episode, and then uploading the episode on all of my platforms to publish or schedule to publish. I usually include creating a new episode graphic and an infographic or carousel about the topic to post to usually my Instagram or my other socials to advertise the podcast. You never know how much reach you can get from one post. In total, these steps are usually done over a period of a few days, unless I get super hyper-focused and finish it all in like one day. Like that's happened kind of like over the summer a little bit, but it's never really happened. During the school year, I would be surprised if I got a whole episode written and recorded like on a Saturday. But even then, either way, I pretty much know how long each step is going to take because I've been doing this for a while now on a weekly basis. I know in total it takes about 4 to 6 hours to go from start to finish. And that's like from deciding to do the podcast to publishing it all online. So I plan it out on my calendar. When I am going to, when am I going to get this done? That's what you want to ask yourself. When am I going to get this done? Because that's how you turn a dream into a goal. That's the difference. When am I going to do this? Schedule it. This helps make the task more tangible. And now you've put time aside to work toward the goal or project. So now there are going to be times where you lose motivation or something goes wrong or you need to change or add a step. This is where emotional regulation comes in. This happened to me recently with this podcast platform that I use. Their recording settings changed and I had to regulate and accept certain things about it and just accept it and go with it. Yes, I had emotions about it, but I brain dumped, I journaled, I surfed. Something to help with this is writing it out. Write out everything that could go wrong and then write a solution. So I wrote, I could produce a really sucky episode. And it's like, okay, well, what if, literally ask yourself the question. What will you do if you get stuck? Or what will you do if something goes wrong? Literally answer the questions. So I answered my question. I'm like, well, if the episode sucks, I'll figure out a different way to do it. So this is how we can lose or when we lose motivation, remembering and solidifying why we're doing it can help in this area to help you come back from any kind of rejection or setback. Remember why you want to do this project or task. And do you like your reasons? I love doing this podcast. I love helping people. I love getting my message out there. Even if it sounds a little choppy, it's fine. I mean, the true ones are going to listen, right? So if you don't like your reasons, please trash the task. It's not worth it. But if so, use those to motivate yourself. I would also suggest not falling into or trying not to fall into the black and white thinking of, if I can't sit down and finish this in one sitting, I can't start. Or I can't start until I do XYZ. These things are procrastivity or possibly front-end perfectionism. Remember, you have ADHD, so completing the task or project in one sitting is most likely not going to happen unless you're due for a burst of hyperfocus. ADHDers work best in Pomodoro settings. So like the 25-minute work and then 5-minute break cycles, or 30-10 or 60-20, whatever works for you. We also work well when we body double. Body doubling is a form of co-working with other people. This can be done in a coffee shop, a library, on Zoom, or even on YouTube body doubles. Like, there are body double videos that people do live, and there's ones recorded that you can use. I personally find that putting on lo-fi music helps me stay focused. A few last tips I want to leave you with is be specific. The more specific you are with your goal and your steps, the easier it is to execute what you want to do and when. Make sure you aren't trying to do this work without meeting your basic needs or treating your ADHD, whatever that looks like for you. I really don't think I'd be able to write my podcast if I hadn't eaten today or taken my medication or drank water. Take breaks. We cannot work for hours on end. And try to keep perfectionism out of it by editing at the end and being clear about the final product. It's not done until it's put out into the world, finished, and sent, or whatever that looks like. The most important takeaway I'd love for you to always take away is make it work for you, not more work for you. I hope you gain some strategies to reach your goals and some ways that you can accommodate it for you. As always, I love to hear from you. And that's all I have for now. Stay authentic, my friends, and we will talk soon. Speaking of extra supports, I just wanted to tell you all that I've updated my Patreon page to include all of the resources that I've really ever made to be held in one place. Just head to my show notes. The VIP members do get a little extra, but you can also purchase like my brand new Ultimate ADHD Journal and Planner, which I've been using for the past year that has worked. Nothing is priced over $10, and everything is at least 50 to 100 pages that you can download and print. You can get it binded and sent to you, or you can just read it off your screen and use notebook paper. So if you want or need any type of that kind of extra support, just head to my show notes and click the Patreon link to join. I hope to see you in there.